Gene Massey with MediaShares. I'm the comic relief. Nothing makes an investor more nervous than somebody who doesn't take things seriously. First of all, I'd like to thank Dara very much. Not just for the opportunity for me being here, but for the things that she's done for this industry. You can't imagine the things that she's done. I started her first conference was in 2011. So the things that she's talking about today, she was preaching then. And in 2012, she had Patrick McHenry come to her very first conference, I believe, right? And so she's really the greatest champion for this change that's coming about in the industry, and I'm without question her biggest fan. So what does surfing and investing have in common? Well, I'm a guy that sat waiting for a wave for a long time. In 1999, I filed a patent for fan financing. It was eventually issued in 2004, but I was running around telling everybody, it's all going to be on the internet. All the funding is going to be on the internet, and we can finance a movie. And of course, at the time, I was a film director, and I figured out that, well, we'll just fan finance the film, and we'll sell copies of the movie to fans. And at the same time, I thought, well, hey, it's not just movies, it's NASCAR teams. That's where all the fans are. So we got RacingShares.com thinking we were going to finance NASCAR teams. And we got Derby Shares. Heck, there's a lot of fans for racehorses. We can finance a racehorse. Everybody can own a piece of a racehorse was what I thought. And music shares and celebrity shares. Kevin Costner's got 500,000 people on his website. They're all women in their 50s, but I mean, game shares. Game shares are actually currently being fan financed or crowd funded on the internet successfully through Regulation A. Broadway shares, I thought, well, everybody loves Broadway. That's a way to sell shares too. Well, in 2006, Kickstarter came out, and they were doing donations. And I thought, I should have had a V8, you know. I wish I'd thought of that, donations, because I was trying to do it with IPOs. At the time, the only way you could fan finance anything was with an IPO. So I thought, well, I'll do an IPO. And I found out that an IPO was going to cost you $1 million, and most producers were looking for $1 million, so I couldn't finance it. So I was still waiting for a wave. And then in 2007, two very fine people who happen to be here today, Ellen Phillip and Cal Donnelly with Ellen Phillip Associates, invested in me and helped me form MediaShares, which was a conglomerate for all of these fan financing things. But I still couldn't do it because it was very difficult. You had to do an IPO. I was still waiting for that wave, even at Dara's first event in 2011. And then in 2012, the Jobs Act came, and I got to speak at Dara's very first event. And I was thrilled that the new laws were going to make it possible to do fan financing or crowdfunding or crowd financing, whatever you want to call it, a bunch of people investing in something in smaller increments. And then only this year, Regulation CF, Regulation Crowdfunding, was approved, which allows you to access non-accredited investors for the first time. Entrepreneurs can go out and get money from non-accredited investors. That's a very serious thing because you're going to be getting money from people that don't know anything about investing, and they don't understand fully the risks all the time. So the SEC is very concerned about selling shares to non-accredited investors and protecting them. Now, today, even non-accredited investors can invest with their self-directed IRAs, and you're going to hear about that from Jim and Todd coming up right after me. And this is probably the most transformational thing that could possibly happen to the industry, because it's like 49 million accounts and only 500,000 self-directed IRAs. Is that the right figure? 49 million regular accounts at Schwab and E-Trade, places like that, but only 500,000 self-directed IRAs. In other words, if you have an account at Schwab and you tell the guy you want to invest in a Broadway show, he's going to say, oh, you don't want to do that, you're out of your mind. And what are you, crazy? You know, so he's going to talk you out of it. So, but these new rules allow even small people to invest. The crew of a Broadway show, the crew of a movie could actually own a piece of the movie. Instead of getting their union wages, they could get their union wages and own a piece of the show. So, for many years, MediaShares was a consulting firm, helping others wade through the difficult rules and regulations, helping others market their offerings. And this past July, I saw a workshop production of a Broadway show in Los Angeles that was put on by two of my very dear friends, Barry Fosman, who's here, and Jeffrey Mundy, who's here. And I saw this show, and it was fabulous. You know how when you see something, and those of you that are in the investing world, where you see a good investment, you kind of got a talent for that, and you can kind of smell a good deal, right? Well, I could, being in the entertainment business for many years, I saw a heck of a opportunity here. I said, you know, guys, you really have a Broadway show. I saw this wonderful, wonderful workshop production called Starring Clara Bow, the It Girl musical. It's a Broadway show, we're calling it a bound for Broadway show now, because no, we don't have a contract with the Gershwin Theater or anything. But it's incredible. And I said to these guys, why don't you try to get your funding? They were looking for funding. Why don't you get your funding using some of the new SEC rules? And that's exactly what we did. Yesterday, we filed a Form C for Regulation CF, which is Regulation Crowdfunding, in order to get funding from non-accredited investors. These are my two friends, it's Barry and Jeffrey. And we're listing on Start Engine. That's not quite on Start Engine yet, but we filed our Form C, and it'll soon be on Start Engine in a few days. And anyone that wants to invest, you can't talk, I told Barry and Jeffrey, you can't talk about it to anyone. You can't tell anybody the terms of the offering. You have to send them to this portal. And the reason the SEC does that is so that everybody's not running around making deals with different friends. You know, I'm going to give you half off or make a deal with you. No, you can't talk about any of the terms. If you want to invest on the offering, according to FINRA rules, you have to invest on a FINRA portal like Start Engine. And they are assuring compliance with the SEC rules. And that's a very good thing, because an investor can be assured that an entrepreneur who really knew very little about the rules to start with is going to be really taught and watched and make sure they follow the rules. And so what do Rolfing and investing have in common? You know, Rolfing is a deep tissue massage, very, very deep tissue massage. And an entrepreneur that goes through these rules gets a deep tissue massage. And that's good for an investor, because the investor knows that all the risk factors will be there, everything will be there that explains all of the things that an investor needs to know to understand the risks. I spoke to a gentleman earlier today, and he said, you know, my wife just lost $20,000 in a Broadway show. I said, ooh, uh-oh. But in our case, everybody will understand, because of the way that the rules are, everyone will understand the risks. So if it's okay with you, I would like to show you a little video.
And maybe you're wondering about all these gold and platinum records behind me. They all belong to Barry Fosman, who's had a very successful career as a composer, arranger, conductor, songwriter in Hollywood. And fortunately, I've been able to work with Barry. This is our second Broadway show that we've worked on. I have been an artist all my life, but in order to support myself as an artist, I very wisely chose to learn a skill, and that skill was chefing. And so for many, many years, I've been a professional chef, and I've supported myself and my art through my cooking skills. And presently, I work on a tugboat as a cook on a tugboat, and I have a very good paying job cooking for 14 guys on the largest tugboat in the United States, and I work up in Philadelphia 14 hours a day, cooking 3 meals a day for these 14 guys. And people say, oh, well, how did a tugboat cook come up with the idea of a Broadway show about Clara Bow?
And now you're going to see a very piece of wonderful audition from a young lady who auditioned for us. This is one of their songs, a piece of one of their songs.
I could take on all Manhattan, never show a moment's fright. Should I stay and work in New York City? Would my stars still shine as bright? I can out-act any man or woman, make the crowds laugh, smile or frown. Gotta find out what it takes on the road before me now. Gonna work from dawn to midnight, let my new life now begin. Gonna reach for something deep inside me, time after time and time again. I might end up a crazy mystery, living on the edge of town. Gotta find out what it takes on the road before me now.
So, you see talent like this, and this is just an audition from someone. Obviously, when you go through the process of making a Broadway show, you see a lot of wonderful auditions like this, and you see a lot of truly gifted people. And I'll go back to my PowerPoint again and finish up here. I forgot to to set that up. That's the scene where Clara has won a magazine contest, and she's going to Hollywood, and she sings "On the Road Before Me Now, What's It Going to Be Like in Hollywood." Start Engine is where we will soon be listed. You know, the internet, people, you know, it's hard to predict the future, obviously, but there may not be any more yellow pages. There are probably not any more maps to speak of. The idea of making a living standing in an appliance store selling appliances, you buy it on Amazon now. You read the reviews. The door-to-door salesmen are no longer. And it may be soon that the idea of a broker calling you up and telling you which investments you should make may soon go away. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I think the future is really we've got some wonderful things coming in securities and in investments, and Dara is one of the greatest champions of this, and thank you very much.